Network. It's Untold Radio AM with Doug and Alex Hychak.
Hey.
You hit that button exactly at 7.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't even off 1 second.
I know. Surprise, guys. We're on time tonight.
Oh, my God. Who just, did somebody just send $20?
Yeah, thanks, Charles.
Charles. Oh, that's Charles. He's got a new icon. Thanks, Charles. It's sweet. So, hello, everybody. We are here tonight. It's Wednesday, May 15th.
Yes, it is.
I think the year is 2024, I think. Not sure.
Yep. So if you're in 2030 right now, hello.
So I heard a little birdie story about you, that you were recognized at your local Target store while you were shopping with your son. Is that true?
Yeah, I was at a store last minute shopping for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
You know, big mistake. There wasn't flowers for probably 100 miles. Every place is cleared out, and this woman looks at me. She kind of gives me a look like, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, do I know her? And she goes, do you do a podcast? And I immediately started blushing. And I didn't know what to say, because I was caught off guard. I'm desperately trying to find flowers. I screwed up bad. And she goes, oh, wow. Oh, my God, you're blushing. I'm like, oh, no, this isn't helping.
That's funny. Did you find flowers eventually?
Yeah. And I won't tell you how much I paid for them because they got me.
Yeah, I suppose they jacked the price up.
Yeah. The longer you wait, the smaller they are and the more you pay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tonight we have guest Carter Buschardt. Is that how you pronounce Carter's last name?
Yeah, of course.
And we're going to be debating the Bigfoot flash versus, people call it the woo.
The paranormal Bigfoot.
Paranormal Bigfoot. Whatever. But it'll be fun. We'll have kind of a little bit of a debate.
Round table.
Well, it'll be a mini round table.
Yeah.
Yeah, mini. Do you know what tick questing is? Have you ever heard that term, tick questing?
No, what is tick questing?
Tick questing is when wood ticks in the spring are born and they kind of fluff out a little bit, right? And they're a day old. And they immediately climb to a tall piece of grass and they stick their claws out and they wait. They just wait.
Oh, no.
So I wanted to remind everybody that all the ticks are questing out there right now in the forest. If you're out doing Bigfoot research, you're going to get some ticks, and you want to get those ticks off you. ASAP. You don't want to bite you. I have a little video I sent you, video 1 on tick questing. You should all watch it. Sounds good.
Hi, Tickfluencer, Tickman Dan here. I'm in Massachusetts.
Tickman Dan.
Temperatures are in the mid-60s, and the ticks have exploded onto the scene. We're going to see adult deer ticks out, and these are the most dangerous kind because they're the oldest, and they've had more chance to pick up some of these pathogens. I'm flagging here, which means I'm just dragging this towel over the
guy goes out, tries to get ticks on purpose.
And we're collecting ticks like crazy.
Look at his sweater, man. He's committed.
I've already taken about 15 off my towel. And
yeah.
What's even more interesting is how ticks quest. And we found this one.
It's like Monster Quest.
Right there.
Yeah,
such a
the mini version.
Questing pose. You see her arms are outstretched. She knows something's in the area. She's interested. And
that is tick questing.
How they do this. So anything that brushes by will be a target for this deer tick. and they have sticky, like Velcro type hooks on the ends of their legs, and you see her just waving that around. It's amazing, folks.
Just so you know, they quest from treetops too.
The weather,
when you go under them,
and
drop.
We're going to take her out of the whole situation here to make sure she doesn't stick around to bite anybody else.
That's probably enough of that crap.
And
tick questing. Now you know. Learned a new term.
Now I know.
So when you're walking through the grass, you know why you get them on you, because they're all waiting for you. They're literally waiting. It's kind of creepy. So yeah, stay safe. Doesn't your brother uses that one chemical he soaks his clothes in?
Yeah, I forget what it's called. Thermocell or something.
I can't even say it. No, Promethean or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a spray, but you spray. No, you don't even do that. You don't ever spray it on your clothes direct. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I've never used it.
He swears by it.
Yeah, I just remember that hotel room once they stayed in. We were all out Bigfooting. He came back with a ton of ticks. They put him and his buddy, put them all in a cup. And then they escaped. And then they went, holy crap, we can't sleep in here tonight. And then booked out of the hotel room. Could you imagine those poor people that checked in? And they said there were like 100 of them in that cup. Well, there you go.
They were just all gone.
I haven't stayed at that hotel since.
It's taken over.
Yeah, I haven't. I swear. I think it's kind of nasty. All right. So, Northern Lights. Did you see any Northern Lights?
I just where I was, I didn't see any. I should have gone out, but it looks like you had a great view.
Yeah, we did for a little while. Day one, we went out. And they were amazing, but it didn't last long. We went out driving, and they all kind of faded down to nothing. I sent you a photo that your sister took. Isn't that cool? That's awesome. What we saw off my deck.
That's so cool.
Looks like God's ready to come out of the sky. But they say that people as far south as Alabama saw these skylights. Apparently, this was a very, very severe solar storm and did cause blackouts with GPS. You know who really got bothered by it?
Who?
By the GPS blackouts? It wasn't the drivers. It was the tractor operators all over the country that are planting crops, and they need GPS to plant those crops super straight. And so everything got all wacky. Went out, came in, and they were warned about it. So apparently there's going to be some crooked fields just because the planting got, that blackout happened right during the planting.
Oh, sounds brutal.
So if you see crooked corn, you'll know why, right? Anyhow, that was in the news. You see, that was like, well, that was a ho hummer. I got more ho hummers. So I don't want to get into the real news. I want to get into the untold news. Have you heard that Puxatawny Phil, the groundhog, got married here the other week?
No.
He got married. Do you know his wife's name?
What's his wife's name?
Can you guess? What would his wife's name be? I sent you a photo of her. Photo 1. There you go. That's Puxatawny Phil's wife. And you can't guess her name?
Donuts?
No. Oh my God, that was a bad guess. Phyllis.
Oh, Phyllis.
Yeah. So maybe it's his ex-wife already. But she's eating a donut. You see that?
Yeah, she is.
So you could get into this. Anyhow, so apparently they have big news. They are parents to be, Or no, they are parents. They've had 2 healthy babies.
Congratulations.
Oh, I wonder what the kids are going to get named. Philip?
Philip the Second.
Philip the Second. I don't know. Anyhow, that was in the news. That's kind of icky. And then 2 women in their 50s and 60s were charged with theft and gross abuse of a corpse after they allegedly carried out a weekend at Bernie's stunt. They apparently went to this guy, passed on, and they took him and put him in the convertible and went through the drive-thru at the bank and withdrew $800 out of his account.
The dead guy.
The dead guy, yeah.
Jeez.
Passed on guy.
The passed guy.
They took $900 out. And the bank allowed it because he was right in the back seat.
Yeah, he was in the back. Oh my gosh.
Isn't that just crazy that someone would actually try that?
Yeah, for $900.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
But no.
And they got him. They got turned in. I don't know how or what happened, but somehow they got stopped and busted.
Eesh.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have in the news. There was like nothing in the news this week.
It's got to be a first.
The Northern Lights over and over and over. Solar storms. That was it. It really wasn't. Wasn't much in the way of any scientific breakthroughs. There was nothing. But I do have a dad joke.
Beautiful. Should I play the bumper?
Oh my God, that's such a overstatement of your excitement playing the bumper. Go ahead. Okay, Alex, for a whole box of donuts, what did the duck say when it bought chapstick? What did the duck say when it bought chapstick?
I don't know.
It just told the clerk to put it on his bill.
Is Bill, get it? Is Duck Bill?
Yeah. Yeah, and here's another very dumb one. What does a cow use to do math?
What?
A calculator.
A calculator.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
That's as bad as it gets. So anyhow, the weather's turning nice. It's been beautiful here in Minnesota. The trees are all flowered. The grass is emerald green. I mean, it's a beautiful spring. We really are having an amazing spring. Now it is. It was bad before, but now it's cool. So I thought we'd do trivia on air conditioning and cooling.
Love it.
You just go right into that, don't you? You just what the hell was that? What was that thing?
Nothing. I don't know what it was.
I'm glad you don't have a GUN in your hand. Oh my God, that thing would be going off right and left. Anyhow, but this is cool trivia. Get it? It's really cool.
Can
trivia.
I do the bumper?
You can do the trivia bumper, Alex. And yes, you can play the video of that really cool fan that I found. It is really cool. This is from 1920s. That's cool as heck. I'd buy one of those right now.
Sweet.
Plus, you could add one at the bottom, right? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. All right. You can throw up photo 2 because we've got to have some, and something to look at while we're doing this. There you go. See it? That's a typical Motel 6. Is that a Motel 6 air conditioner?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Super 8.
A window. Yeah, Super 8. I don't think they have window air conditioners. Do they still in motels?
No, they just got rid of all of them.
Oh, okay. So, who was the inventor of the modern air conditioner? Does anybody know or give a damn?
John Conditioner.
John Conditioner. No, it was Willis Carrier. And you've heard of Carrier air conditioners, right?
Yes. That's his brand.
He's the guy that invented the damn thing. They're in business. That's cool, isn't it?
That's awesome.
But what year was it? Was it 1850, 1945, or 1902?
1902.
You cheated.
It's 1902.
Yeah. It's
Right,
1902. You just knew that, right? You just knew that.
right next to the Roaring 20s, you know.
You knew that. Okay, so why did they invent air conditioning? Why did he invent it? What was the reason that it was even invented? You'd never guess in a million years.
To keep meat cold.
To keep meat cold. No. It was invented. Here, just hang on. I gotta go to my notes. It was invented for newspaper preservation. Newspaper. Not food cooling, not anything else, not to make you comfy, but it was because as he had a publishing company, Willis Carrier had a publishing company, right? We all know about a publishing company. He needed a way to keep his paper from expanding and the ink running. Isn't that just the craziest thing that we're all comfy today because a guy had runny ink?
If only he knew.
He didn't give a damn about being, I'm comfy now.
Yeah.
That wasn't on his mind.
No.
I love that. But what building do you think was the first building to use air conditioning? What building? What type of building?
The John Carrier building?
No, it wasn't the John Carrier building. Was it used in cars? Was it used in, to cool you when you're at the drive-in theater? Was it used in the ice house to keep the ice and beer cooler? Or was it used in a movie theater?
Movie theater.
Yes, it was used in a movie theater. And that's where the term blockbuster came from.
Really? Blockbuster?
Yeah, blockbuster came because it was a place that it was the first public place people could go to and flock to the theaters to see a movie in the summer and get out of the damn heat. So that was a blockbuster, a theater that was cooled and a movie that played so you could cool off. Yeah.
So it was a twofer.
Well,
you got entertainment and you got to cool yourself.
Isn't that shocking?
Yeah.
Loretta, isn't that shocking? I'm waiting for her answer. We got to meet Loretta and hang out.
Yes. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, she was awesome. Oh my God, Loretta, you were so cool. Let's see here. What else do we have? How has air conditioning changed buildings? How has it changed architecture? It's made a lot of changes.
Venting.
It just changed the venting. Okay. That's an Alex answer so much. Oh my God, I love Alex. Okay. It changed things from, in the old days, they built houses with really high ceilings.
They made them lower.
Right. They had the buildings that big breeze windows, high ceilings, big windows. And buildings were much smaller. The actual commercial buildings were smaller. The air conditioning allowed commercial buildings to get really big. They had a lot more glass that, solar energy comes through and heats up. It allowed them to, lower the ceilings and things. And we don't have running ink. No running ink.
No running ink, guys.
It also changed landscaping because they didn't have to plant the big shade trees over houses.
That makes sense to block all the heat.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You thought about that stuff. People don't think about any of that crap anymore, right? You just moved into your house. You didn't even have a stick for a tree. They're probably stick trees, right?
Yeah, I had one stick tree.
One stick tree. Yeah, that's all you got. Well, in the old days, they wouldn't have cut the trees down to begin with when they built the house.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have bought a house that was out in the sun. You just wouldn't have done it.
Would have made sense.
What else here? Oh, what was the first commercial commercial building that actually had air conditioning? Was it the Empire State Building, the Sears Tower in Chicago, or the New York Stock Exchange? Which one was the first?
New York Stock Exchange.
You cheated. That's right, but you're cheating.
I mean, who has all the money? The stock exchange.
Okay, all right.
Come on, think
All right,
about it.
So apparently the U.S. uses more power on air conditioning than some entire continents, than the whole continent uses for everything, right?
Yeah.
We use just for our air conditioning here. Is it Asia, Australia, or Africa?
Africa.
Continent. Right again. Oh my God, you're batting 100, so we know you're cheating. All right, that's enough of that. Oh, one last one. What do you think they cost back in the 1900s? Air conditioner. If you were 1910, 1920, you wanted an air conditioner, what was it going to cost you? How much money?
$23.
No, it's $350 back then.
Whoa.
Big money. And today that equals, they're saying 3,500, and I'm like, no way. It's way more than 3,500 today.
Yeah.
I don't know who in the hell wrote that fact, but they ought to have their wallet examined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something.
Inflation from then to today. Crap, I see inflation that big jumps just in a year or two. My God, I've seen food go up almost 500% in some cases. Carton egg was $1 back and not more than like 2-3 years ago. And now they're almost $8 for carton eggs. Like, whoa. It's big time. All right. Enough of that. Done. Do you want to do a couple of quick untold cuteness or skip it and go right to tech breakdown? What do you want? They're quick, I guess. Let's
do the bumper and let's just blast through those guys.
All right. Blast them.
Where'd you go?
I said because you're the cute one, I'm just going to leave you up.
I don't know about that.
I had my mic. So my mic was unmuted. So then I muted it like a dork. Okay. So there's you don't need any sound. This cute little guy apparently can get away with anything. He's just torturing his dad. Go ahead and play it. He's just pounding on him. I just think about that, this gentle giant. I remember when you did that to me a few times.
Yeah, that seems
they just
familiar.
Leap and land right on your crotch sometimes. Like, what the hell? I think I got a gully twister from all you kids at least once.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, it's just funny that they can get away with so much. All right. Next one. Sound is fine. I'm not sure if this dude's cute. That's kind of maybe in the eye of the beholder, but sound is good.
If I go very quietly, I can see my dog Tater taking a nap. He likes to smile.
What the?
That's not cute. She thought it was cute.
That's nightmare fuel.
That's nightmare fuel is right. Nothing like an upside down dog. Okay. Next one and last one. No sound. I want to know, can animals smile? Give me your answer. Do you think they're really smiling? Or do they just look like they're smiling?
They're smiling.
They really are smiling? Okay, go ahead and play this. It's an example. Just wait. You'd swear this little owl is just grinning away. God, that owl's got almost a human face, doesn't it?
It does.
The eyes.
So cute.
That's pretty cute. Now that's cute, right?
Yeah, that gets the cute.
That's all I got. That's all I got. Okay, so tonight for Technological Breakdown, we'll let you play your bumper. But we're going to have a guest techie. David Ellis. Because this is way out of my realm. This one is like zonked out. David can do this better than me, and so we're gonna play the bumper because Alex says play that damn bumper, and then we're gonna bring David Ellis to explain. I'll give you a little prologue how to visually see your spikes in your audio recordings. Right? You've left out 2 or 3 audio recordings over the weekend. You pick them up. How do you sort through it? David likes to do it this way. And it's obviously a very good way to do it. And obviously, the best way is just listen to every damn second of it. But if you got 3 recorders, 12 hours each, could be a problem. But this is David's answer. We're lucky to have him here tonight. Go ahead and play your bumper and then bring David on. There he is.
Hey, David.
How are you doing tonight?
He is.
I'm here.
He is the technological breakdown sound guy for sure. How often, David, do you play with sounds every day? It's like almost every day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. I'm looking at stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It just became an obsession, and I guess that's how you keep pushing, the envelope, because this can get boring pretty fast if you're not an audio geek or an audiophile. And
well, that's why
I kind of learned the.
Sorry, there's a delay. So I'm just going to let you take it away, David. I'm going to keep my damn mouth shut. So go ahead and explain why and show them this software that you use. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, there's 3 different softwares that I use to break audio down. And most people are familiar with the waveform. Alex, can we share the screen?
Yeah. You want to just okay? Pull it up like you would normally, and okay.
So
so we can see it, David.
Okay, I from my vantage point, it's the whole screen, and what we're looking at here is what Doug referred to as waveform, which are the spikes up and down. You can see by looking at this is 2 channels. It's a right and a left, which pretty much mirror each other. But what we can glean from this is mostly nothing other than some sounds are louder than others. And as you just kind of look through this whole file, scroll through it, it looks like probably not much is going on. Well, maybe here something's kind of going on that looks a little more interesting. But how do you know that that's a Sasquatch or something suspicious? You really don't. And that's the whole point of looking at audio visually in waveform is pretty much useless. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn this file into a spectrogram. So you just kind of watch me go through the cycle to get there. And then there's all sorts of different, you can look at it in all sorts of different colors. Some are maybe more in tune with your eyes. I like this one. It's called Fruit Salad. And this is, I should back up just a little bit. This is a software called Sonic Visualizer, and it's freeware. It doesn't cost you anything. You can just go on the internet, find it, download, and start your work. Okay, so there's also a way to change the contrast. So finding sounds can be difficult at times, and so you have to sometimes play around with the contrast and get it so that it's tuned to see as much as you possibly can. Now, from the waveform that we were looking at earlier, you couldn't really tell that there were crickets in the background. But if you look at the top portion of this spectrogram, you'll see in a higher range or higher resonance signatures that indicate crickets, which are these just the long parallel line here. So they are resonating in several different frequencies. If you look over to the left, it'll give you an idea of what those frequencies are in hertz. So let's just play this, a little bit of this, so you can kind of get an idea of where the sounds are by looking and listening. So higher sounds are going to be at the top of the spectrogram, and the lower sounds are going to be at the lower, at the bottom of the page. So you can see that there's not much going on, and that is pretty typical. And so once you kind of get an idea of what sounds are, you can start to kind of breeze through the file here. These dots and horizontal lines are traffic in the background, and some of the lower sounds are airplanes. And you go, well, how do you know that, David? Well, it just experience. Thousands upon thousands of hours of listening to sounds and zeroing in on where they are is important. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of get to a section right here. I'm going to let you listen. I did this with Alex earlier, and he kind of missed it until I zeroed in on it. But there's a suspicious sound that we're hearing here. You may not have heard it. Let me zero in on it a little more. I'm going to bracket it, and it's going to loop now. Okay. So that kind of sounded interesting to me, but I had trouble. It was kind of buried in all the other sounds. So I have another software that I use that's called Spectral Layers, and it allows me to change the volume on certain things. Now, this is the sound of interest that I had heard. And now we're going to hear it looped 5 times in a row. I'm going to show it to you on a spectrogram. And it's the sound that I was interested in. You're going to hear right away.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Super interesting.
Now, if you were to just look at that file, let's see here if I can get the other one back. Yeah. So here is what I saw. I really didn't hear it all that well because it was so buried. But
so what you saw was, David, what you saw was that seagull looking.
Yes.
Like a kid looking at a seagull on a picture.
Right. I'm going over it with my cursor here. Yep. That just looked odd to me. It looked like all of these representations of sound that we're seeing here are signatures of things or animals or, but once you start to get familiar with all the different sounds that are out there, you can hear or see when something kind of comes on your screen. You go, well, that's a little different. That's a little odd. What is that? So when I bracketed that, I thought, okay, that's something I want to investigate. So then what I did is went to another software and made a clip of just this particular sound, which is what we played, that looped 5 times. And I ran it through spectral layers, and I was able to increase the audio and remove the crickets and all of the sounds that don't allow us to hear what we have recorded. So,
David, do you recommend somebody
Yeah.
who gets the software just to play with it, right? Just
yes, that's exactly
around with
what
it.
I did. It took me, I would say, 5 years to get kind of comfortable with it. So this is a long process. It's not something where you go, oh, I'll be overnight, I'll be able to figure stuff out. It takes a long time, and
Yeah.
a lot of patience, and a lot of stuff is buried, just like what you saw here. The sound is not loud, and you can tell by looking at it that it's far away because its contrast is kind of low.
What do you think that sound is? Do you think that could be a Bigfoot?
It could be. I don't know. I haven't heard many sounds like that from.
Certainly weird.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, context. I have my daughter who is in Ohio. She said that she was going to Salt Fork for a few days camping, and I said, "Oh, you got to throw a recorder out, and you got to at least do that for Dad." So she did, and this is a recording that she got while in Salt Fork.
I have a question. Lori asked, "Is that the you filtered out the crickets? Is that the actual sound, or
Yes.
was that sound really distorted?"
Well, it would be incorrect to say that it's not distorted some, but it was what I do to enhance it is I go over as accurately as I can the sound that you're seeing here.
Okay. Any more examples, David?
Well, yeah, let's see. Towards the end, there's some sounds that people will recognize, and yeah, okay. So, tell me what you think this is. Okay, I'll get one maybe that's a little louder. Okay, not cooperating. Oh, here we go. This is louder. You'll be able to figure it out.
Coyote? What is?
Doug's going coyote. What do you do? What do you say, Alex? What does our group think? Somebody will tell us.
Well, go ahead and enhance it.
That'll take time.
Okay.
That'll
pre-enhance. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
But what is it, David?
That is a barred owl.
Oh, barred owl. Okay.
A barred owl.
Very cool.
And it's the trill at the end that gives it away.
Yeah, it's just kind of faint. There's so many other sounds. Barred owls definitely make a lot of weird sounds, but it's still limited on the sounds they make. They can sound like monkeys, I guess.
Yes,
maniacal monkeys. So what else do you want to show us, David, before we wrap tech breakdown down?
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay.
But I can do a lot more. We can get way more technical.
Let's do this. Let's jump ahead to like get into something really cool like some kind of speech or maybe some of the Moorhead sounds and give an example of what the sonic visualizer
Yeah,
can do.
there's one that the long Ohio type howl has an anomaly that Bob Densford identified, and it's called the attenuated fundamental. And that is something that we should all, as Bigfooters, come to realize, and that will take up a whole segment to go through that.
All right.
I've got a comparison of a human trying to sound like Bigfoot, and then a suspicious sound that has this anomaly. And I think this is the one that got your attention a couple of years ago when we were talking, and you said, that's it. That's the one. That's how we tell.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Yeah, based on that. Missing fundamental.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, David. Well, thank you. Well, next week, if you're willing, David, we'll do part 2.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks much. We appreciate it.
All right. So we got Carter in the back room. How are we doing on time?
We're ready to go with Carter here. Let me introduce him. So Carter Buschardt, he's an author. I believe he used to be a BFRO investigator, real active one. He was an investigator for 13 years with the BFRO. Maybe he still is. I don't know. I haven't met Carter, so maybe he'll tell us about that. But he's researched and interviewed dozens, if not hundreds and hundreds of Bigfoot cases and witnesses. He's written numerous books on the topic, lives in Missouri. He has apparently has 75 reports published with the BFRO. To give you an example, I did BFRO. I was a field guy or a curator for the BFRO for numbers of years. I probably have 3 published, right? Or 2 maybe. And he's got 75. So that takes a lot of work, man. And that I do know. He's also a trained investigator for the MUFON, and they're really strict on their investigators. His new book, Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma, is what we're going to talk about and just get to know Carter. Come on, man.
Hey, Carter.
Good evening, gentlemen. How's it going?
Hi. Good to meet you. We've never met, have we?
No, we've never have. I got to put your screen up over here. Yeah, no, we never have.
Sweet.
I'm just a simple old hippie guy down here in Missouri.
Well, you've certainly accomplished quite a bit in the Bigfoot world. So are you still doing work with the BFRO, or are you done with that?
Yeah, I'm still a member, and I actually have had 100 reports published.
Whoa. I know how much work that is.
It is, and I'm a paper freak, so I've got 2 copies of every report, the one that came in and then the one that was done after I finished interviewing the witness. So I had the before and after. So I've got files everywhere. It's just ridiculous.
Because when you get a report in a case, you got to drive hundreds of miles in some cases, many cases.
Yeah.
You got to spend the entire day with the witnesses. Yeah. Then you got to come back and work on all this paperwork. Then you got to submit it, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. And it was. And, I've met probably half of my witnesses. I work Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas. Those are my 4 states that I work.
Okay.
So I can be in any state in 3 hours or less, So I just picked those. But I am still a member. I'm not doing reports anymore for reports being tampered with and meaningful data removed. So I'm still there. I just will not do reports until that stuff stops.
Yeah, well, that's where the controversy, of course, is. And it is a controversy. There's 2 camps. There's the flesh and blood.
Yeah.
There's the somewhat paranormal, or the woo. I hate using the word woo, but just unexplained, right? The enigma. I like what you called your book, because Sasquatch is an enigma. I've been trying to get photos and video of these creatures for more years than I could count, and they always seem to outsmart me.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They just seem to figure out a way, or nature helps them, or something else goes haywire, right?
Yeah. They know your moves before you make them. I mean, if you're out trying to dig, they're always a step ahead. It's almost comical. It's like they're toying with us.
Well, I've had them actually trip my traps, create a diversion. It might be interesting to you.
Mhm.
Create a big diversion, shove trees down, scare people away. Meanwhile, they're over here testing my trap.
Yeah.
Which is a mechanical trap, right? With a string, and they're testing it to see what it'll do.
Mhm.
And then, of course, they ain't touching it. That's the
Yeah.
end of that crap.
Yeah.
I was busted.
Yeah.
But they purposely did all of these moves to scare us into the cabin, test the trap,
Mm-hmm.
and then leave it alone.
Yeah. It's irritating. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
I've had, of course, a lot of us researchers, investigators, have videos we can't show. And, I've got some that if I showed this to you, you'd go, oh, okay, they're real, but I can't share it because I've been given it. It's a military film and I can't do anything with it. And, I promise, but it's very definitive thermal film, about 22 seconds.
Thermal.
That's
Well, one thing we both agree on, they're real, right?
Yeah.
I think you're probably 100%. I am, because I've seen them.
Yeah.
And when you see them, and I've had witnesses each time, because I think I'd still even doubt myself if I was alone, right? I'd still doubt. But when you have a witness with you and they see the exact same thing, at that point, you're not crazy. And you have a little more confidence to not question yourself.
Mhm.
So we both agree they're real. And where I stand on the whole topic is just open-minded. I'm
well, that's
open-minded
good.
because I don't know crap, right? I don't know anything. But I also feel that science can still intrude into the topic, get evidence. Like you said, you have a thermal cam. That's still science.
Yeah.
It's still evidence. Hair is left. Scat is left. Fingerprints are left. Film, like the Patterson-Gimlin film,
Mhm.
is left. So obviously, that's all I know, is that there is science that can be conducted. There's new science that can be conducted. And you don't disagree with that, do you?
No. And so what animal does all that? Leaves scat, leaves prints, structures, etc. What mythical animal does that? Well, it's not mythical if it's
Right.
doing that.
Yep.
And what got me on the paranormal quantum track was the first expedition I led for BFRO. 2012, I think it was, Missouri. This Sasquatch, we had two parties, my party and I had another group that had left and was going to make this big circle around and come back and meet us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had bad radio. We were down in a holler. And so we were having really bad trouble speaking to each other. So we were just maintaining silence where we were waiting for them. And I was scanning the forest with my thermal, was not recording because I want to save batteries. That's the last time I'll ever not record at night when I want to save a battery because I missed a shot of a lifetime. And so I see this big heat signature coming around. I'm thinking, oh, thank God they're here. We found them. They're not lost anymore. And, but this Sasquatch walked around the corner and it took one step and it realized we were there and it just vanished. It was like a flash bulb went off and it just poof, exploded into nothing. Because, I even had spots in front of my eyes. I couldn't see, because it was that bright. And so I'm going, okay, well, I'm not drinking. I'm not doing drugs. My equipment's top of the line FLIR equipment. there's nothing that would make that happen other than it happened. And so that took me on the path less traveled with the paranormal and quantum type events. And then I started doing reports, and the witnesses would tell their story. And after they were through telling me their story, and 50% of all the sightings when I started this was road crossings, and the other 50 were just hodgepodge of everything.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of discount, the road crossings. That's great. That's an incredible event for you. If you've never seen or experienced it, that's an awesome thing. I'm not discounting it. But after they would tell me they were really kind of pedestrian sighting, then they started telling me, now I want to tell you something you're not going to believe. And I'd say, well, you just described a creature that doesn't exist. So now you're going to tell me something that I'm not going to believe? Well, bring it on, baby. Because that's what and so they would start telling me reluctantly at first about Sasquatch disappearing right in front of them, walking into a tree, orbs, it's all kind of stuff, voices, conversations. I've had my voice returned to me in my exact voice, because I've sat on the front porch with one of my families. But anyway, so as I started doing this, I said, I need to write some books or something, because I had 100 reports published. I've spoken to about 500 witnesses, and they're all starting to come out of the closet, so to speak, and talk about taboo things. And they're so relieved when they got over it. And I said, COVID had hit at this time, 2019, 20. And so I started writing books because I couldn't go anywhere. I mean, you couldn't really do much and go anywhere. I did lead the last expedition for BFRO in 2019 in Illinois. And that had incredible ramifications too. But I started telling people, they were telling me their stories, and then the more they told me, the more the word got out. Hey, talk to this guy. He's not going to laugh at you or make fun of you. Whatever you tell him, he's going to have an open mind. Now, we would try to find explanations for the esoteric type things, that are, like disappearing and changing a vibrational frequency, and, orb to Sasquatch to orb, all the stuff. And if I couldn't explain it, I said, well, we might have something. A few times I did explain it away and gave them food for thought, But overall, the people were just very thankful. They had a voice, they got it off their chest, and they were happy as they could be. And
well, okay. But let's talk about the reasons why those things are so taboo. Don't you agree that mainstream science already kind of giggles at the Bigfoot topic?
Yeah, they do.
So they already giggle about it. So
Yeah.
then you combine that with now Bigfoot's walking in through trees and disappearing. Now you really get the giggle factor, because they giggle about that stuff for sure.
Yeah, sure.
And
I used to.
well, what I want to do is, in defense of like Matt and guys that are very much entrenched in flesh and blood. And I know Matt personally is a very open-minded person. He wouldn't got into the Bigfoot topic to begin with.
Mhm.
But I also think, in his defense, he doesn't want some amazing scientist to come into the BFRO database and get completely turned off, because his goal, I know his goal, is to get science. I mean, nothing would make him happier if 100 scientists walked up and said, okay, we're going to take over this. We've got $20 billion to throw at this topic and do field research. So I think the goal is still, and it's also my goal. Yet I'm still open-minded, but it can be a real tightrope walk, right?
Yeah.
And it is, and it's tough. I'm working on Legend Meet Science too. I can't do anything with paranormal disappearing Bigfoots, really.
Yeah.
I can't, because I can't put it under a microscope. There's nothing I can do. All I can do is look at what's here in front of me, the hairs, the envelopes I have here of hair.
Mm-hmm.
Those are what we have. It doesn't mean that there isn't weird stuff. People disappear too. I saw a ghost once. I swear to God, we were in a movie theater, and me and Yvette and the 2 ticket takers watched a man who was walking down the hall or down the stairway and then out the door and down the stairway and out the door, disappear in front of all 4 of us.
Well,
That was
what would
just a
science
human.
say about that? What
Pardon?
would a scientist say about that?
He'd think that we're all just imagined it.
Yeah.
We're all mistaken. He actually went out the door, and they would argue, and and I don't blame them, because unless you witness something yourself, I had. Hold on, let me get a drink of water. My dentist, we would talk about Bigfoot, ghosts.
Cheers.
While I'd be in the chair. And he's like, well, I've never seen anything. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen this. And about 5 weeks after he said that to me, he calls me up, all shook up. And he goes, I was over at my friend's. We were playing poker. And I heard a noise in the, at the front entrance. And I turned around, saw a woman walk through the door, hang her coat up, and then disappeared. Never saw her again. And they're all like, and he swears she was flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And yet the door was locked. Blah, blah, blah. So he's like, I just saw a ghost. Totally opened his mind up. So don't you agree, Carter, that unless somebody's had some kind of weird experience, they're just, I don't blame them for being closed-minded. Do you blame them?
Yeah, no, I understand that. And that's where a lot of my witnesses are. That's why I got into the habituation subject so heavy, because, my witnesses, and, all the people in my books are real people. There's no, I don't fictionalize or tantalize or any of that kind of stuff. It's all fake stuff, real people, good people. And that's what's in there. So when they started telling me about their reports, as the years went by, they started seeing and experiencing the weird stuff. And they were avowed skeptics about that. I mean, they said, I've had many hunters said, I've been hunting in these woods 35 years. If there was something like that in here, I'd have seen it, and I ain't seen it, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then you get a call from that same hunter. Can we talk?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but it's the same with my habituation and ape only type, until they made the transition when they saw things that they couldn't rationalize and explain. And so I've come to know these people. I've met probably half of the people in my reports. And it's like, I know these people. They're not liars. They don't want anything. They don't want any money. Their stories are in the books, but there's no names, no locations.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of who was there and where it is. It's what happened,
Right.
And so after a while, just like you were explaining, these people start talking about things and they see them and say, well, what would do that? What was that they're seeing UFOs along with the Sasquatch sighting, or Sasquatch along with the UFO sighting. And they reluctantly start telling me that stuff because they're afraid I'm going to start laughing at them and snickering. I said, well, no, talk to me. Let's talk about it. And so these people have been baptized the same way that your people, I saw a ghost, or you saw one, she walked in, hung up a coat and went to the bathroom and did all this. What do you do with that? You're not nuts, are you?
Right. It's a tough situation.
Yeah,
when is science, we know this stuff kind of goes on. We know people are seeing dogmen, yet there's not really any evolutionary. There's nothing like a dogman living today, right? We have apes today. We have gorillas. We have orangutans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the idea of a Bigfoot doesn't seem that big of a stretch, right? But you take the giraffe. What if there were 5 giraffes roaming around and people were seeing giraffes and talking about this, 12-foot neck creature?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody would think they were nuts.
Yeah.
Because it'd be such a one-off. But where do we go? What do we do? I'm personally not terribly interested in that side of the mystery, only because there ain't nothing I can do about it. I could do what you do, write books about it, do movies about it. But do you feel you're doing what? Okay. What motivates you to do that? I mean, what is the end result eventually? And how long will it take maybe for these super natural, or maybe they're just super abilities,
Yeah.
to be accepted? What do you think the end goal is with getting
Well,
these
for
books?
me, doing this,
Yeah, for you.
it's been that the people were first stigmatized for seeing a Sasquatch,
Right.
period, whether it, be it physical only or the esoteric quantum paranormal thing. So that is the main crux. I want more people to tell their story without fear of ridicule. So
Sure.
we're all anonymous, and so are the locations. And then, sure enough, as I started the first book and got halfway through the second, I had people calling me and filling up more books. Well, talk to him. He's not going to, so I was getting, and I'm nobody special, but I'm not one of these people that's just going to laugh at you,
Mhm.
And so I'm furthering. I want everyone to know that people are seeing and experiencing these things, and you do have somewhere to go and someone to talk to, whether it's me or somebody else. And I'll put it in books because now people are coming forward, see the book, read the book, hear a podcast, and they go, "Oh, that's what Uncle Bob used to tell us. Remember that
Yeah.
story? And now he's dead, but didn't he write it down?" Or it begats more stories from people, and they're so thankful to be able to get it out of their chest and get it on paper and just set it free. Let whatever's going to happen with it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I agree. I just kind of wonder when technology will get to a point where we can study these kind of phenomena. Yeah, we have our tri-meters and our EMF meters and our radioactive meters, our Geiger counters, but that's
It's come a long way in just the last 10 years, technology-wise. All the little things, even the apps you can put on your phone. Most of those I wouldn't take out into the woods and count on them for anything. They're kind of fat.
right.
But
Yep.
there's freestanding equipment now that's vastly superior to what we had 10, 20 years ago. And so we are making strides that way. And all the blob squatch photos, I attribute most of that to shaky hands. People are frightened. They're trying to hold their phone, get it out, and they click and they take a blurry picture. I just went up to, out to Reno last week and took a bunch of photos with Dave Scott, and half of those were blurry. Not my photos, but, everybody's, moving around, getting bumped and stuff. You're in the woods. And so, we need to do better with that, the photography part of it. We do need to do better with that.
Yeah, but then there's a huge amount of, I get more pictures with circles on them that are just stumps and, shapes in the forest, which, oh my God, I got bathroom tiles in my shower. Well, if I want to, I can find like 50 Bigfoots that look perfect, and they're just random patterns.
Yeah. No,
So I don't buy into any of that, stuff, but we need a clear close-up Nat Geo quality film, photo, sequential pictures. That's what I want to, try to get or want to see, because seeing circles around blurry bushes isn't much help.
I'm noticing that it's happening less and less. I did a couple of red circles, and I went, "Oh God, that looks so cheesy and unscientific," and it did look pretty stupid. So I notice on a lot of the sites now, people get a lot of flack for putting red circles.
Well, because they're nothing.
If you have to put a circle around it, you can't.
It's worthless.
Yeah,
It's worthless.
That's the way it is.
I got approached at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. Hey, Doug, can you take a look at this photo? And and I did a lot of that. And I'm just like, it's nothing. It's worthless.
Yeah.
And I explained to him why.
That I agree. And so it's funny, but all the photos like you're speaking of almost show the same thing. It's the pareidolia. It's, like you said, in your bathroom tiles, you can probably see, Niagara Falls in there if you want to look at it. I mean,
About anything
you
I
can
want.
make anything, appear and be there. if you want to see it bad enough, So, I have a few good pictures, but I wouldn't post them because they're not good enough.
Well, what is the craziest enigma story you've ever heard with the best witnesses where there was maybe a double witness? Is there one story you could recount? Double witness, crazy
This is
enigma?
a BFRO report that I talked to and this one was labeled as hallucinating insane. That's one of their categories, hallucinating insane. There was a Pentecostal minister here in Missouri, up north, almost to the Iowa border. And this is probably about 10 years ago. But he could not make a living as a Pentecostal minister. So he was out in California working as a propulsion scientist for one of the big, McDonnell Douglas or somebody. He was a rocket scientist. That was his degree, but his passion was his religion. He was a Pentecostal minister. So I got this report, I read it, and I called the guy up, and he and his wife and one child were awakened one night and told, you need to go outside at exactly 11 o'clock. I'm not sure what time it was, but 11 or 11:30 midnight. And there will be 12 Sasquatch out in the front yard. And they will speak to you in a language you do not understand, but you will understand everything they say. And so the guy goes out and he goes through this whole thing. And his wife, his kid was out there. The kid runs back in the house. He's totally freaked out because he doesn't like seeing all these big hairy monsters. So here's a guy, a rocket scientist, a Pentecostal minister, someone he's got a pedigree, a couple of pedigrees, and he sounds lucid, but he's learned, but at the same time, he's spouting all this stuff. It says, I have to analyze what they were telling me, but it was not good, is what it was. So here's a guy, a rocket scientist, minister, his wife, his son. They walk out at the exact time they were told by God and spoke to and were spoken to by Sasquatch out in his front yard. And they went their separate ways, and that was the story. So I'm going, God, you almost had me, but but at some point, even I've got to draw a line somewhere, and that was one of the craziest stories.
Well, so you didn't believe that story, obviously.
No, I didn't. There was just too many holes, and he had almost a good answer for about every little question that I got. You interview people, so there's certain ways you can interview somebody. You can ask them the same question 3 times; they'll never know that you asked it 3 times. They'll just rephrase it and bring it in at different spots, and you can find people are hiccuping on you and yanking your chain. So, but he had some just really convenient answers, and it was just that was kind of outrageous. But I believe other types of things that aren't nearly that outrageous. So is there something wrong with me or my perception of people, or was this guy just one of the outliers and was just so bizarre that, well, I'm kind of glad I talked to this guy. So now I know what to look for when somebody else starts going off,
Is it possible that these creatures have super abilities, not paranormal, but super abilities? They can leap really far. They can climb really quick. They can camouflage, because of they're automatically very camouflaged.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that the enigmas have been just mistaken for super abilities that we're not aware of?
It could be.
So you're open. Are you open to that?
I'm open to that because I'm not locked into anything. I'm an open mind. I'm going to listen to and consider everything. In my books, I say this many times. Considering is not believing. Just consider it. It's like the Brussels sprouts theory. Put it on your plate. Pretend to eat it, so your guest doesn't, your host doesn't get irritated and insulted that you didn't eat her cooking. Just spread it around the plate. If you don't like it, just make it look like you ate it and just continue about your life. But at least, consider things if you want to learn things.
Yeah, I love that. Consider and being considerate and considering everything and being curious is a very good trait.
Mhm.
And you're actually very rare.
Yeah, well, you got to have an open mind about stuff, and so you can't just discount things offhand, nor can you just believe them offhand. You have to have some stimuli that gets you to the point where you go, that's that's pretty good,
Interesting. I heard one today. I don't think I can repeat it, but it was a researcher that had
come
some
on.
really, really weird happen in his house. Well, okay, I'll try to just paraphrase it all. He'd come home from doing research, and every time he'd come home, there was a rare bird inside his home, and he has no openings. He said there's a wood stove, it's closed. There's no way a bird can get in here. It's the same kind of bird each time,
Mhm.
and they're really rare. I've only seen like 3 or 4 in my whole life.
Mhm.
He claims this has happened numerous times. Always when he gets home from research, there's a bird waiting for him inside the home. And I said, yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can correlate the two things, is what I told him. Obviously you can't, but it's interesting. Taking note, just taking note.
Yeah. One of my witnesses up in Canada, half of my second book is devoted to him. Him and his father were tormented or followed, and they were chosen by the Sasquatch up there in British Columbia, where this is. And they lived out in out in the middle of nowhere. And so, but he would find butterflies, bugs, fish heads, with or without skin, in his house after he would go out for a walk. He was living off the grid. I mean, literally, he had electricity, but he was like, it was primitive. He had an outhouse and all that. He was living really off the grid. And so, but when he'd go for walks, and there would be things in his house, the butterflies, fish heads.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. It's not normal to find a fish head in your home when you
Yeah,
go
but
for a
it
walk.
was gifting, and so then he went
Sure.
outside and saw some soil had been disturbed, and he looked at the soil. He moved around in a little bit, and there was fish buried in the soil, like somebody before him had come along and buried. It was just all bones and everything, but apparently one of these fish heads had come from there, had been brought in by somebody unknown and put in his house. Dragonflies was another thing.
Have you ever heard about rocks?
Yeah.
People coming home and finding rocks in their house in a pile, or
Yeah.
I've heard that one quite a few times. I don't know what to
Glyphs.
think.
Glyphs, twigs and trees, small, bent into little triangles that, depending on which Native American language you look at to see what that might mean. And it's all subject to interpretation, like you said earlier. I mean, you don't know. The glyph could mean anything. What direction do you have to come from to see it? Is it upside down? Is it sideways?
Yeah.
Which way are you looking at it? How is this person who's the means interpreting it? And so it's all bizarre. But yeah, and again, they don't want anything. They just want to tell me the story and ask if I can explain it, and most of the time I can't explain it because I'm not a scientist, I play one on TV, but I can't explain it any more than you can. You probably explain it better than I can.
What if Carter, what if our forests are inhabited by a lot of, let's call them timber ghosts, just ghosts, spirits, energy, things that maybe live there. Who knows? We don't know anything about our world. We don't know anything about our universe.
No, we're just renting. We don't.
You're not joking.
We're just renting. We're just it's passing through. Well, we don't know.
In other words, what if it's not Bigfoot specifically messing with people? What if it's something else?
Yeah, it could be. The indigenous people, especially in British Columbia and Canada, across Canada, and our Native Americans, they have stories of the spirit beings and the Sasquatch living in the trees. They are the trees. They get their energy from the trees. Perhaps they go into the trees and die. That's why we don't find the bodies. Do they go to another dimension? Or do they cannibalize their dead and have some kind of spiritual burial ceremony where they eat the body of their dead brethren and they scatter the bones or bury them or put them somewhere you'll never see them, and we don't know anything. Where do the bodies go?
Yeah, well, no, we don't know that. We don't know if for all we know, we do have some bones, but we don't know. We just don't know anything. Alex, you got to have something here.
What would you do with $100,000? Do you think that would, or what do you think it would take to solve the mystery?
Give him more than that, Alex. Give him $1 million. Give him $1 million.
That would just pay off the senator. You need a couple of
No, you got to use the money for research. What would you do, Carter? Come on. Think about
DNA.
$1 million.
So would you put it all into DNA? All 1 million?
I think so. With the caveat here that we get the material returned to us if possible, if it doesn't have to be denigrated so much by testing, we get something back. A lot of people, and I know you've probably heard this, are sending stuff off and it comes back as human, bear, dog, or contaminated, and they never see it again. Well, how do I know that's what it is? Let me get a second opinion. Let me stand there while you're doing it. But you want the DNA to be done by a qualified, open-minded scientist, not just a lab rat. Somebody who's just working in a lab and I got another one out. You want somebody who's going to take it seriously, someone knowledgeable, vastly more knowledgeable than we three are as far as DNA, but to be truthful, and it comes back. So it's a mismatch. They say it's nothing and you don't get your sample back, and well, there's something wrong with that right there. Yeah. So, for $1 million, a couple of $1 million, whatever it takes.
You could rent your own lab and stand there and just look over their shoulder the whole time.
One of the big universities, or one of the government labs, But if you could do that, if they would even want to take the time.
Well, let me ask you this. How much is money a problem with solving this mystery? Not having funding, not having the resources.
I don't think it's that big a deal because I think the answers to some of these secrets, the government is sitting on it. And
so do you think they're hiding this from the general public?
Yeah. I've talked to multiple forestry workers, Canada and the United States, and they're part of the government, the federal forestry workers. And they, a guy in Washington just bought 5 of my books and I shipped them all to him. And he was telling me the stuff that he was told. You say anything, you're done. You'll be bankrupt. You may be in jail. You say nothing, because he was on a forestry crew. And they saw several. And I've heard that story from many people, conservation agents here in Missouri. His wife saw a Sasquatch. She was down on the ground. She's was a wildlife biologist, and her gig with the Missouri Department of Conservation was to take pictures of frogs eating insects. So she was down flat on her belly in a marshland and taking pictures up close, and she heard something behind her. And she turned around and there was a Sasquatch, big as day, broad daylight, 10, 11 foot tall, standing there just watching you like, what is this stupid human doing? What are you doing? You're taking pictures of birds. She said it had a look on his face. Well, we heard about this story because we were, several researcher friends of mine, we were looking for a place to camp. And we drove by the conservation cabin, which was the office where the local, the conservation agent in that county lived. They were packing up and moving out. So we didn't know anything about what they were doing or why they were leaving. We just walked up and said, hey, do you know any good areas around here for camping? And we started talking about why we were there. And they saw, a couple of Sasquatch stickers on the car. And then they told the story. about his wife and she said, I'm out of here. I'm done. We are leaving. Yes, dear. I mean, so that was it, but they said, you guys can stay here. So we stayed in their camp because they abandoned the thing that afternoon, and we stayed there that night. We left the next day before the head guy was going to come out and get the keys and whatever else was left out there. But so we stayed there because they said, we're done. We want nothing to do with this. We're out of here, And here in Missouri, they have a name for the clans. They call them pods. So there is a knowledge base of sightings and experiences with the forestry workers. And it's the same thing. You say a word, you're done. Not only are you done, you may be done, And so, and if you saw this footage I have, it's high grade, and this Sasquatch jumps 22, 23 feet. They gauged it at night over a creek, one stop. It was running from the helicopter that was following it.
Yeah, I just saw a deer running from a helicopter yesterday, day before. They were spraying, but they were diving down, and boy, a deer bolted and leaped over a obstacle from the helicopter panic. So just interesting that you mentioned that.
But so there's people in positions of authority and power that have seen things. Yeah, like you guys know people that have seen things, but you don't have proof of it other than their story. But they're a seasoned veteran of government or forestry work, and you tend to believe them. They have powers of observation, just like if you're interviewing a policeman or a military. They're note takers. It's just the facts, ma'am. They write down everything they see. They're trained observers. So how do you disavow anything like that from trained observers, military, police? They've got nothing to gain by it, and they don't want their name or reputation out there, but they're telling you stuff.
Well, I got a question. I'll guarantee you've never been asked. Do you think the government would be more likely to cover this all up if Bigfoot was just flesh and blood, or if it had paranormal type qualities? Which scenario would cause them to be more worried?
Paranormal.
Yeah.
Because I think there's more to them. With this dumb ape thing, it doesn't explain much as far as what people in general are seeing. It only explains so much. And then when you start, so I've had 500 witnesses I've interviewed. I've got 100 reports published. Out of all those people, over half are telling the same story. They don't know each other. They haven't seen each other. They're not reading these stories. They're just going, I don't want to freak you out. I don't want to spook you off. I don't want to tell you the story. So they're all telling the same stories, and they're perfect strangers. There's got to be something for that.
Well, what do you think we're spending right now on all of these, like Fermi Lab out of Chicago, CERN? I bet you we're spending, billions a year on these labs? Well, they're doing this to figure out and conquer dimensions. I mean, that's the bottom line here.
Mm-hmm.
So the government obviously has a huge interest in dimensional research.
Yeah.
If what people is saying are true, obviously. I talked to a guy the other day that he claimed he saw one come out of a portal and was like right there, inches away from this thing, and look each other in the eyes. And you hear these fantastical stories, but I could see a government going, well, if there's any truth to this, this would be really. So do you think they have agents studying this phenomena, this mystery?
I think so, because it's just like let's go back to the Tic Tac UFO.
Okay. Yep.
The government's been lying to us about UFOs for 80 years.
This is a good analogy, I guess.
And all of a sudden, they throw us a bone. There's a Tic Tac video. And you've seen, doing the gimbal and the going into the ocean. And
it can ping pong, and it can go underwater.
And so you see all that, but the government's been sitting on it for 80 years. Well, until they can weaponize and monetize and politicize all the alien technology, let's say, till they have a good handle on it and control over it, then they'll throw us a bone. Okay, well, this is, we can't do this. We can't build this. This is not ours. We don't know who it is, what it is. It's off planet. Other than that, we don't know. Here's a couple of videos. We'll throw you a bone. We'll get back to you in a couple of years. And we're still there. So I think it's going to be the same with Sasquatch. I mean, if it's a dumb ape, how hard would it be for the three of us to go out one weekend and find one? I mean, if that's all they are.
Well, I've always put them in the category of very, very intelligent, hairy humans.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily, like you said, doesn't necessarily explain them beat me at my own game for 35 years.
Yeah. See, I can't imagine the government not knowing that stuff.
Okay. Oh, all right. So hang on here. I got a good question for you.
Okay.
Let's say you were a betting man, and would you bet that they have, what would be your guess on how many agents or departments or people actually working on this mystery right now today? Do you think it's 2 people in the whole country working on it?
I'd say 50
100
or
people?
less. I'd say 50 or less if you've got regions that are hot spots.
Okay, so you're thinking that they may have up to 50 agents working on this freaking mystery.
Yeah, over the United States, over the country, or Canada.
Right. I mean, the whole,
And not
North
maybe working
America.
full time, but if something really hot, this was a report you need to look at, Bob, because this is weird. And so they will probably not look every report, but like the really esoteric things, or they're threatening forestry workers.
And would they be interested in you secretly and what you do and who you talk to? Do you think?
That's the ultimate conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I know.
My partner had 2 guys, men in black, go to his house after I did a BFRO town hall here in Independence, Missouri. He had 2 guys, 2 suits, black suits, go to his door, and there was no car, and he turned around to pick up the phone or something, and he turned back around and they were gone.
Yeah,
couldn't find them. So yeah, it just sounds so fantastical.
Yeah, of course. And I want to just qualify everything.
Yeah.
I'm just asking these questions out of pure brain diarrhea, right?
Yeah, sure.
But you never know what I'm going to hear. It was a fascinating answer you gave, up to 50 people.
Yeah.
If you were a betting guy, do you want to pin that down even further?
I put money, and I'm a semi-pro poker player, so I would put money on it.
Okay.
I just have this gut, and too many people that are in the government branches have said the same thing, and whether that's a story they all tell the same way every time, so everybody gets it. You'll be fired, you'll go to prison, you'll be bankrupt, your family will leave you, you'll have no money, you'll be homeless, we will destroy you if you say anything. Well, that's a pretty good threat, and so I've heard that from people, and they're just telling me that because this is why I can't talk, this is why I can't do anything, and this is why I can't talk about what I saw 3 years ago, because my family, I've got 3 kids, and they're all, newborns or babies, and I can't risk that, so I'll just shut my mouth.
Well, certainly I would never go, I'm going to give up because there's no way you can ever get footage of one, or there's no, I would personally never do that.
Yeah.
Only because it's just mounds of physical evidence that we need to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
NC State is working on a project. I don't believe they've started yet, but they've been gathering. Hopefully they start soon with a DNA study on supposed unknown animals. Right?
Yeah, I just heard that from somebody else.
Yeah.
So
I've been working with them for quite a while.
Okay. So
I've supplied them quite a bit of samples. I've got a lot more to send them. I'm kind of waiting for them to actually get going here.
Yeah.
But if they come through with this, it could be really interesting because they claim they don't want to just ignore the stuff that drops to the bottom.
Gloss over. Yeah.
say, oh, that's contaminated. Well, no. You got a tiny sequence. Let's get more of a sequence here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just jump to that conclusion,
Yeah.
which is, I know, is what's happened with all this DNA.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the Melba study. I don't know anything about that study. I don't know a thing.
Yeah.
I have no opinions on it even.
Yeah.
But I do know that I've had hairs tested in numerous labs, and I get, oh, it's human, so it must be contaminated, or it's just human, and they drop the ball. Well, really? Why don't you give me a little more information? As how many base pairs did you get?
Mm-hmm.
What did you actually end up with? Because if you only get a few base pairs, 20 base pairs, and those base pairs match human, you cannot assume it's just exactly like a human.
Yeah.
Look at
Don't you find that odd that when people send off samples, they come back not at all, or?
Yeah, I've never gotten a sample back ever.
Yeah, and so, you don't have to destroy one to test it.
You have to destroy a small part of it.
Yeah, a small part, but you leave the follicle and you just whatever you have to do to get your answer. But usually you've got more than one hair. And if they're always, a lot of them come back and say, well, they have their hair is clear, and that's why they can blend in with the forest because they're bringing in the colors of the forest. The trees.
Yeah, there seem to be a lot of hairs that are kind of
clear, opaque.
Yeah, they're very fine-grained pigmentation, very translucent, I guess, very wispy.
Yeah,
almost like a newborn baby's hair, like maybe a 1-year-old or a 1.5-year-old kid's hair. It's kind of but longer, wavier, naturally worn end, never been cut. Those kind of things are very confusing.
Yeah. Have you looked at your hairs? Can you discern between a human and let's say a cow or horse? Horse. Yeah. Well, I probably can too. So, but when they don't send it back and they tell you they lost it or they had to destroy it, I mean, that's just so convenient. Of course you did.
Yeah.
Because what did you really find?
Well, there's apparently some evidence surfacing that a lot of these labs have never tested it.
No. Yeah.
They've just given lip service.
We got another hair from Hydrosec. What are we going to do now? Okay, well, let's just tell him it's a
throw
human.
it in the garbage. Yeah. Yeah. They look at it. Yeah, it looks human. Yeah. It's just as likely as anything else.
Yeah.
Have you heard about our new skin sebum study, where we're hoping to get DNA out of skin oil, surface skin lipids, which is we've had to put a nickname on it. We're calling it Sasquatch albavernix, meaning this white waxy.
Yeah.
And that's hopeful. I'm really hopeful. We've collected quite a bit of it. There's chemical differences between all primates and what's in the skin oil. Like we humans, we have cholesterol. Gorillas don't, as an example.
Yeah. So
if we can, and it doesn't seem too hard to collect it. I deal with people all the time who collect it on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, I've got people in my books that they've got the big waxy skid mark on the side of the truck window or on their window.
Do you have any photos you could send me, Carter, of that?
Yeah,
tomorrow we could chat.
I sent. Let me see. Well, I sent some to you guys. I don't know if I sent any of the photos, but I can send you the photos tomorrow, and we can discuss them.
Did Carter send you anything, Alex, that you want to put up?
So there's just a handful of photos. There's one labeled Dogman. There's looks like a cross.
I don't want to see any creature photos. I just don't. But if you got any other evidence, photos, handprints.
Well, yeah, I've got the handprint in my first book. I don't know if I sent you that. It to Alex, I mean. And these were taken here in.
You could hold it up to the camera. Maybe we can see it.
Let me find out where it went. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
No, explain. That's pretty damn waxy.
Well, that is a cast. Now, what I did,
Pretty weird looking.
well, it's a handprint, and it was down in the mud, and it kind of got squished because
Oh, okay.
it was.
Twirled.
It's an area that my partner and I, Brian, go, and so this is my hand versus it. It's 11 and a half, maybe 12 inches from the base of the palm to the tip of the middle finger. So
It's a big
here
hand.
is
In my hand.
yeah, it's an NBA thing.
Holy moly!
I'm trying to get the. Well, there's great dermal ridges here.
Really? Have you sent the? Do you have that cast?
Yeah, it's up here on the wall.
Oh, you should maybe get a duplicate made of it and get it off to a few people.
Well, Cliff Barrett got that one.
Oh, did Cliff get it? What does Cliff say?
He said that's a real deal.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
Brian took it out to him because Brian's brother used to live in Washington. So he went out there and he got a hold of Cliff and they met. And he's got a copy of that handprint.
Nice.
So, and what the black stuff on there is the print powder. I just left it on there to highlight the dermal ridges because there's all really good dermal ridges. Now, I had a buddy that we met. He was a cop here in Missouri, and he let me. He sent me some print cards. So I took all these little print cards, and that's like for any suspect they bring in. So you put them on these cards and you take them into the lab. Well, any print that goes into the police lab has to be run through the national database for criminals. You can't just, hey, Bob, do this for me on the side real quick. Everybody's at lunch. You have to, if a print comes in, because you're on camera 24/7 in there, so they have to run them through the database. So the good thing is that Sasquatch had no criminal record. I can swear to that. He had not robbed a 7-Eleven to anybody's knowledge. But I've got a lot of but he was really good. And so they said, that is real. I don't know who this is or what it is. Don't ever bring me this again, whatever it is. I don't want to see it.
Oh, geez.
So they were spooked. They said that is a legit print. So yeah, Cliff, if you know Cliff very well, he's got that. And you can talk to Cliff and, without me telling you that he thinks that's the real.
Well, okay. So let's get into your, you must have had some kind of experiences by this point, right?
Myself?
Yeah, yourself.
Yeah.
Do you want to share?
Yeah. Well, this is with my habituation family. Now, this is just something they do. And this is what's so funny about this. These people, my habituation, right now I'm monitoring 8 or 9 properties in families. And they've been having experiences, everything from a year to a generation, 25 years or more, and counting. Some of these families have moved out, and the next generation of the family moves into the house. They already know what's going on, and they're there, and they're fully aware what's going on, and they're all on board with it. But anyway, there's one family I've gotten very close with. I've gone out to the house a couple of times, and we sit on the front porch. This is what they do on a Saturday night. A lot of people go play bingo or they go watch a movie. They sit on their front porch, get a 6-pack of beer, some popcorn, and sit in the chair, and they throw sticks and rocks back and forth with the Sasquatch, probably the juveniles. And and I have sat there and I called, I did a whoop and a howl. It came back exactly in my voice. I said, my name is Carter. And it came back exactly in my voice. My name is Kata. They couldn't quite get the Carter, but the Kata. And I'm listening to this, and they're all just sitting there eating popcorn and having a beer. Like, what you think of that? It's like an everyday thing.
Okay, but how do you know there isn't somebody out in the woods?
Well, they live on 200 acres. I've known these people for going on 12 years now. They're not the type. They're very devout Christians. They don't want anything. Okay. They're just salt of the earth. At some point, you got to believe some of these people that would not do that. They would not they're not the types. So there's no Bubba out in the woods getting, $25 to prank this city slicker, researcher when he comes out.
Okay. So you heard him mimic you. Was the voice anything odd about the voice?
It was
Dual tonal.
It was very deep, but it was in my voice. It was just louder and pronounced, and you could tell it come from a big person, But it was my voice, not because it mimicked my word, but it was my tonality. It was my voice. They did the same thing with Ginny and Henry. I mean, they just talk back in their voice, and they know what they want, and that's what they do. Now their daughter spooked, and she's gone now. She left. She's gone off to the military. But they used to come pound on her window in the back, and that scared her. And for a long time, she didn't want anything to do with it. And then she would see, after they pounded on the window, orbs would come in through the window into her bedroom and go flying around through the house. So, but I've experienced my name being called back to me.
Yeah.
In my exact voice. I mean, it sounds like me, other than it's louder, but it's. I would have thought it was me. I would have thought it's another human.
Well, David Ellis asked, did you record any of this mimicry?
No, I didn't, because that's one of the things that I don't do. I don't record. I don't photograph if they don't want me to, because I'm not going to ruin what they have for my benefit.
Okay, so the family didn't want you to.
No, what I said, I won't do this if you don't want me to. They said we'd appreciate that, just because we want to enjoy this, and
Gotcha. Okay.
all my witnesses are that way. I want to continue having this relationship, these conversations, whatever it is I'm having with these Sasquatch. I want to continue that. And they're, phobic with cameras and recorders, as you know. So I don't do it if they don't want me to. I respect that, because they've given me some great pictures. One of the pictures in the book here, this book.
It's not a red circle picture?
No, I lost my red circle that week.
So, okay, you see the picture of the hand you have on there?
Yeah.
I swear to God, I have a photo very similar to that. And I'm like, it's like giving me the worst deja vu ever, Carter.
Yeah.
So it's either something that we ended up getting that was similar. It's really weird. I'm getting the worst deja vu when I look at that photo.
Yeah, the fingertips are bizarre, and I think it's a juvenile, that maybe it's not fully developed, or I'm not sure. But you see the time date stamp on this?
Yeah.
Let's see. Anyway,
I've got
the preacher. About every 3 or 4 weeks, I've been to this property twice. We actually filmed something, and due to artistic differences with the production crew, it's never going to be see the light of day, because they just, a lot of egos involved, and it was either for Hulu or something. They were going to do a Sasquatch thing, and they came out and taped, but it'll never be seen. So the preacher, he's walking through there. This is the same camera, same day. You see that is 3:15 and 36 seconds.
Okay.
The handprint, 3:15 and 40 seconds. That hand tripped that camera 4 seconds after he walked by it. So,
yeah, we've gotten pictures of hands, arms, pieces, but you never know for sure if it's from a Bigfoot. You just don't.
I know. It's just, but see, and the one thing, this is the town preacher. Now,
and that hand is from him, correct? That hand, the picture of the hand.
It's actually from the landowner. The town preacher doesn't make much money, so the landowner they hunt together. They're really, really good friends.
Ah.
But he lets him hunt and take whatever he wants to feed his family because they don't make a lot of money, you know, in a little bitty town. So, and they become real close friends. So about every month, 6 weeks, they go through and walk through and get all the SD cards and everything out and see what's on there. And then they put them back in, you know, they replace them and then just swap out batteries and do all that. So he's seen some other bizarre stuff. They've seen the Sasquatch out there. But the veracity of this guy, you know, I don't believe him just because he's a preacher, but just because he looked me in the eye, we talked, and, you know, they sat on this for a long time. They just, you know, they finally met me and said, well, I'm going to share something with you, you know. And so I've Google lensed it and done everything I could. And so here's how I am confident that it's not phony. And I would sure hate to find out that it was, but the film crew tested this because the guy that called me out of Florida wanted me, Stacy Brown. He wanted his crew, or a crew was interested in one of my reports out of Arkansas, another habituation case.
Okay.
And we were going to do that. So I called my folks up and said, hey, I got a film crew that wants to come out and film you guys. Would you be interested? And I've talked with them for 3 or 4 years, but all of a sudden they just got really greedy. Well, we want money. We want brand new camping gear. We want a bunch of stuff if you're going to come out and film us. And I said, well, that's not how this works. We just want to substantiate your story. So we're not, you know, and you know, Stacy said, well, screw that. We're not doing that. So, well, I just happened to have gotten this photo a day or two before that. So I said, I'm going to send this to the film crew and let them run it through their lab and see if they can verify that that's fake or not. And about an hour later, I get a phone call. We're on our way. We're coming out.
Well, I can tell you that picture is real as heck. I think I have a picture just like it, but I've got to go back. It's like 2 years ago. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look.
I sent this to Alex, I think.
And yeah, it's
I
perfect.
sent in the covers of my books. But
Yeah, I have the covers. Yeah, I can bring them up.
So I'm going to look for that photo because it's so close. It's crazy.
yeah,
It would be cool if they were the same but different, right?
Yeah, and this film crew that was coming out here, Sarah Davis. You know Sarah Davis?
No.
Okay, she worked for one of the big production companies out of New York. I can't remember, but anyway, Sarah Davies. She's British, European, British. She was the producer for this, the co-producer. So anyway, this. I've got another photo here, which is ultra interesting.
Do you want to explain that photo?
No. I'm going to go to my grave with it.
Looks like is it a print on a window?
Looks
Pretty
like
close.
Looks like a face almost.
Yeah, it's a face. It's a Sasquatch. And here's another photo that kind of give you a
When you say it's a face, was it a print on a window or was it? It's not a.
very, yeah, it's a. This is a. I've got the family that grows all their vegetables, and you see that big handprint up there. And they've built, and this is the owner of the son measuring his hand against that handprint you see. So they built these Quonset huts with this, the big heavy rolls of pliable plastic. You can just wrap it over, and this is their greenhouse. And they grow all their vegetables inside the house. And they know they've got Sasquatch on their property. They've seen them many times, heard them, all that structures, the whole thing. Another habituation family. So, but somebody was getting in and eating all their vegetables. And they thought the neighbors were stealing from them because it's kind of a sketchy area, but it's way out in the woods. Anyway, so what they did was put these two Quonset huts close to each other, and in between each of these Quonset huts or greenhouses is a propane heater. And so they run the pipes this way, so they heat one and heat the other, and there's all this condensation on the inside of the greenhouse. So this Sasquatch, he's got his face and hand up against the plastic looking for humans so they can make their getaway. So one night, about 11 o'clock, he hears a bunch of ruckus outside. He gets up and the motion lights go on. He's going, okay, good. I'm going out there. I'm going to find out who, he did not think it was a Sasquatch until he got out there. So he runs out. He hears this unbelievable screaming and howling from one side of the woods as he gets closer to the greenhouse. And it's about 50, 60 yards from their house, because I've been out there a couple of times too. And he heard screaming from the other side of the woods, howls and screams and all that. Then he gets up to the greenhouse. He hears the screaming and howling coming from inside the greenhouse. But he's a 21-year-old kid. He's like, well, what the heck? I'm going in there. And he opens the door, and this Sasquatch runs right by him at night. They brush. He could have kissed him. It was that close. They touched. It was a juvenile. It was about 7 foot tall, but it ran right by him, and it just went sideways so they could get through the door together. And it was just the craziest thing. And this kid was like,
Wow.
He pooped his pants. And he was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't know if he clawed me or he just touched me. I was looking around to see if I had claw marks on me or if he cut me open or something. I just couldn't feel it because I was in shock. But so that's what happened. So it ran by him. And now they've made a deal with the Sasquatch by telling them, as many of my other habituation folks have done, you quit stealing our food. You can have this much. You can eat from the middle of the pear tree all the way to the top. You leave the bottom for us, and you quit stealing our food like that, because this is how we feed our family and pay our bills. And it stopped, but they still go in and eat some of the food, and they'll see these big body prints on the ground where they're 7 or 8, 9, 10 foot tall Sasquatch laid down, took a nap after it filled himself up for strawberries and radishes. It's comical almost. And this is like a day in the life of habituation witnesses. I can call.
I've dealt with some of them. Yeah, I deal with one on a regular basis too. And
is that what's his name up there in Minnesota?
yeah, Randy.
Randy. Yeah, I know Randy. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think I met him once. I can't remember. I was supposed to go up and do something on his property, and I was going to go with somebody else who knew him, and the trip didn't work out for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know Randy well as a human being. I cannot picture that guy lying about anything.
Well, see, you're saying the same thing I said.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And so if he's telling you this thing walked through a wall and walked through a tree, I can't see him lying about that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So what do you do with that?
I listen, but I don't do a whole lot with it. I can tell you.
Yep.
I've gone up there. I've done that.
Yeah. And you had any experiences at his property?
Yeah, I had some kind of weird happen up there once.
Yeah. There'll be something that'll slap you in the face one day and you'll go, yeah, okay.
Well, I had Randy doing something, Carter. And then when he would quit, we would get blasted with this stink. It's terrible stench. And I wasn't alone. I was with 2 other guys.
Yeah.
And the 3 of us were getting hit with this terrible, and we'd walk a quarter mile. Randy, do that again. He'd stop. We'd get whacked with the stink.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you're just sitting there going, what in the world?
Well, see, would you think Randy would hire a guy to go spray?
No, because he had no idea that.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So
when
you think about people are going to fake stuff and do stuff, you go, well, what's the odds that you're going to pay someone and buy a can of fart spray?
No.
Yeah,
and there's no such thing that you can buy. He'd have to get putrescine from a morgue of rotting corpses. I mean, it's just
So at some point, you got to give it, a consider thing.
Well, of course, that's all you can do is just take it in, listen.
Yeah,
sympathetic ear.
Yeah, I've got another family in Arkansas. They listen to conversations between 2 Sasquatch and 3. Mother, father, and daughter and son have all heard the Sasquatch talking amongst themselves in the forest as they're on their property, monitoring their house and their dogs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and these are God-fearing Christian folk, you know, and of course, you know, all you got to do is say, yeah, well, what about Joel Osteen? What do you think about that guy? You know, he's a Christian and he's just robbing people blind. He lives in a $47 trillion house or whatever. So, you know, you can't put stock in just because he's a religious person like my preacher guy.
Well, the problem with some of these habituation guys, if they're not keeping it secret, well, then they have no filter. Like Randy, he's honest to a point where he has no filter. So he kind of, you know, you can kind of hang yourself.
Yeah, I have a filter. I will stop like my Pentecostal preacher talking to 12 Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I got to go, well, Father Bob, I'm going to have to take a pass on that because I'm not sure I could, swallow that one. It'd be very exciting and titillating if I could, but it's just not.
The main argument that somebody like myself can come up with is that the other day we put an illusion up. Alex, you could probably find it again. We put an illusion up where there's no color in the photo, but it's a Coke can kind of in this black and white line drawing. And gall dang it, if your brain doesn't see red.
Yeah.
Everybody sees red, bright red. And there's no color. You blow it up, there's zero color.
Yeah.
Black and white. So humans or our brains can trick us. They can.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's proof of it.
Just I'll agree with that because it tricked me into marrying my first wife.
Oh, good night, everybody. No.
Yeah. Well, here's I want to show you these fingerprints because this got the albivernics on it.
Okay.
And this is I don't know if I know it's in here. So,
by the way, if you guys have any questions, put them in caps. Now would be a great time. We can start firing them off, your questions.
Okay, there it is. Okay. I don't know if you can see this very, very well.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Now that's got a little camera flare on it, but there are some albivernics on it, and you can see the hair.
That's a very waxy, thick, whitish gray.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. I see dermals in it.
Yeah.
I would love to have that photo.
I'll send it to you for $700.
That's very generous of you.
Yes, I know. I'll send it to you. I've already made a note to send you this stuff.
But I do want to say this to the public. If you find fingerprints on a window and you're going to take photos, please have somebody hold a ruler next to them.
Yeah.
So we have a really good gauge. There are some forensic people who are interested in looking at this, latent experts, but they really need a ruler against these photos.
Yeah, in the heat of the moment, she just couldn't do it.
No, I realize.
Yeah.
I do stupid stuff constantly, and who would ever think to put a ruler up?
Yeah, well,
but that's why I'm saying it. If anybody in the reach of my voice finds some of this white stuff on a window that looks suspiciously like a huge handprint, take a lot of great photos, put a ruler up to it, try to then swab some of it and put it in a paper envelope.
Yeah, and she the thing about these footprints, these fingerprints, they were on the inside of her house, not outside.
Ooh.
Inside.
Thanks, Carter, for that. Thank you. Good night, everybody. That's the end of Carter. We're putting him in the back room. Nobody wants Bigfoots in their house, Carter.
I know.
Nobody. Zero.
Yeah, especially when they're sleeping.
Here's the albivernics of.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
Yep.
It's very whitish gray in it. I don't know what it is. Although I did have a primatologist, Carter. You might find this interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He takes care of gorillas.
Yeah.
He had mentioned that one day these male gorillas came out of their pen and they had this white stuff bubbling out of their armpits. Thick, gooey, and there was bubbles. It was like forming these big giant bubbles.
Mhm.
And then they were smearing it on the glass. Well, guess what? They couldn't get it off the glass.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, that sounds like the Alba Vernix.
Yeah. I've got pictures of them on the back of a motorcycle, on windows, car windows, inside the house, outside the house, you know, and one thing they were on the inside of the house, but the windows were stored out in their shed and locked up because they built this house from scratch. And so they stashed all the supplies out on their big shed and locked it up at night, you know. So, and when the workers needed the stuff, they would go put it there. So the print, those are not human prints. They could have been touched or tampered with in the shed or in the barn before they got inside the house, and therefore the print was on the inside. She had cleaned her windows and sat down in her chair to stare out at her view for the first time with her new windows and everything. And she'd already cleaned the windows, and she goes, she thought one of the workers had gone by and put a handprint on for whatever reason, by accident or on purpose. And she got out and went back out to clean it, and she realized the print was on the inside of the house because she was scrubbing away. It wouldn't go away. It was on the inside. You know, I'll send you all those photos of it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to definitely have to chat. You've obviously collected a lot of physical evidence.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm hoping Yvette took the garbage out tonight, Rockland, because I'm now too afraid to do it. So anyhow, okay. So you've collected all this amazing stuff. What do you think is the most compelling stuff that you've collected? Is it the hand casts, or is it those fingerprints? I think the fingerprints are freaking
The
amazing.
fingerprints are very individualistic, and it's really hard to get those.
Yeah.
And a lot of these Sasquatch seem to just, they run their fingers along the side of the house, and you'll get the skid marks from the fingerprints. You can see where they've, you know, made an imprint on the dirt on the side of the house. They hit the window and just keep going. It's like they're, you know, like they do on tents. So I've had them go by my tent and run.
I think they're very tactile. I think they love to touch stuff and feel the texture of it.
Yeah, well, the stuff, we have so many things, you know, smooth glass. Where do they get that? They don't get that out in the wild.
No, right.
You know, or tents.
Yeah.
You know, I had another wildlife biologist. He was a guy, and he was camping out in Mark Twain National Forest. And his reports is one of the ones I had published. And he was sleeping in a hammock outside, not in a tent. And something woke him up, and there was a Sasquatch strumming his hammock strings. Doom, 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 doom. It's like, ooh, that's kind of a cool noise. It was ding, 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 ding. They would go to the other end. I mean, he was paralyzed. Just going, what do I do? You know, but they were fascinated with the hammock string. And well, he had this 250-pound body in there. It had it strung real nice and tight, so it made a nice noise. Bling, bling.
David Ellis has got so many recordings of them beating on steel tanks and drumming on stuff, and it's really interesting. I've witnessed things like them opening and closing like spring-loaded plastic boxes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, like they just never tire of it.
No, what are these stupid humans? What is this box thing? What are they doing?
I don't know. And then they'll leave, and then they'll come back and do it again.
Yeah.
When we were up at Snell, one would come up on the porch and kick the same bucket. Every time he came up, first thing he would do was kick the bucket. Every single time. It's like, oh, yep, they're back.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that bucket. Here, listen. Boom. There goes the bucket getting banged again or kicked.
Yeah.
That 5-gallon bucket sound,
serious joy out of that. Another one of my witnesses out near where I got that handprint. They had 22 acres, and they boarded horses. Excuse me. So people could come ride horses, and you know their girls all rode horses, but they housed them so people could just leave their horse there and come out and ride and do all that stuff. And they'd always tell them about, well, there was a bunch of bushes out there, and we used to ride toward those bushes, and then they're gone. Well, why'd you cut them down? And they're saying, well, it's probably the Sasquatch. They're just watching us ride our horses. And then when you get close enough, they disappear. And like you talked about a distraction, they do something over here and you look over there and then those trees and bushes disappeared where they're not trees and bushes. They're Sasquatch standing there perfectly still in an open pasture watching people ride horses. Well, sometimes
I don't want to interrupt you, but you can finish your story. But before I forget, have you investigated any of the hair braids, the hair braiding?
I was just getting to that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was taking a right turn when you stopped me.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, they've had several horses had their manes braided, tails and manes. Now, from wind whipping, that can happen kind of naturally, but these are like braids.
Yeah.
And somewhere I've got one pretty good picture. I got to find it, but yeah, braiding. And the barn is shut and locked from the outside. So somebody's letting themselves in. I mean, it's not locked like padlock, but it's got, the big old piece of wood across the front of the two big doors. So something's letting himself in and braiding. And who does that?
For what purpose? For what purpose, I wonder?
Because they can, because maybe it's a bonding thing with the horses. I really don't know. It sounds like maybe something that juveniles might like to do. I'm going to try to make a braid. I'm going to try to make a hair. There's a couple of reports of Sasquatch with braided hair and or dreadlock like hair coming way down that's been either braided or woven because it's really long and stringy. But just this part right here down to about a third of the way down the back. But why not braid a horse? I mean, just because you can. Maybe it's a way of communicating with the horses and bonding with them or something.
Yeah, who knows?
They're regular tenants on that property.
I've heard some darker stories too. We don't want to even talk about.
Oh, okay. Well,
with horses, yeah, you can use your own imagination.
Yeah. Cattle too.
Yeah.
There's what's that book? Emmett. Somebody he wrote that book. It was a little real thin white book. Just a little bitty, almost like a pamphlet you'd get in church or something. And it was about a Sasquatch that came onto his property and befriended him, and he had gotten divorced and left. But the Sasquatch, youthful Sasquatch and cattle,
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was.
It's a dark thing like you're talking about. But so
yeah.
That's animal behavior. So
have you seen any of these braids?
Yeah, I've seen them. I've got a picture of one here.
Okay.
I cannot find it for.
Well, it's one of the things we're going to do in Legend Meets Science too. Is we've got access to some braids, and we're going to test a number of different things on how tight the knots are, the pattern. There are things that can be done with these, and there's enough of them that have been saved that at the very least it might lead to some future research. So we're going to do some.
Yeah, I will send you everything I can come up with.
Yeah, so any help in anything would
But
be useful. Alex, you got to have some question. I'm sorry, I'm hogging everything here tonight.
No pressure.
What
No
if
pressure.
what if you could have people do their research differently? What's the simplest thing they could change?
People or science? People.
The people, like individuals doing research,
like myself, but that are
yeah.
Have an open mind. At least have an open mind. You don't, like I said, we don't have to believe it, but just put everything on the plate. Because if you're an investigator, researcher, you want all the data, whether you believe it or recognize it or
at least
not.
write it down, basically, right, and then filter through it later.
Yeah. Hey, say hi to Mark. Hi, Mark. Mark Richardson. Howdy. Old friend. But anyway, be meticulous, be note takers, be prolific with your data keeping. Because, I saw something move, I took a picture, I got a red circle. Look at it right there. You see it? There's two eyes. I'll show you where the eyes are. I put two polka dots there. So there's the eye. See it? You do your own research. If you have to look for it and you can't figure it out and you're looking at the page, then don't put it out there. We got to quit doing all this, the red circle and just the blob squatches. Yeah. And I know some of my witnesses, my habituation people, they live on there and they are seeing these beings and they're taking the pictures. By the time they get them, they're shaking because they're nervous, or they've disturbed the vibrational frequency to ruin the photograph. You can see a humanoid shape, but that's about it. And when I was taking that picture, it was clear as a bell. I don't know what happened. So, but don't post that stuff. Keep it to yourself, but don't post it, because we're all getting garbage in, garbage out. That's what we're getting, because and the thing with Sasquatch world, you guys probably know this already. I'm preaching to the choir, but it's very cutthroat in the cryptid world. Everybody wants to be the one. Everybody wants to have the body, and they want to be the one, and they forsake all else. Nobody works together. And especially.
Oh, you shouldn't say nobody. That's.
Oh no, but in general,
It's a
a
problem.
very competitive thing. There's a lot of hate and animosity.
So you feel like people should try to work together better instead of.
Yeah, you can find 5 people if you just think about it. All the people you've met. I've got a lot of people have done the artwork in my books, and the people I've met and researched. There's some great people out there. We may never meet in person, but if you can get 4 or 5 or even 2 or 3 people that can have a like mind, we're going to consider everything. We're going to throw it out collectively. We're going to keep it collectively, or not put it out there at all. You just got to, it's got to be, we have to pretend like we're scientists. We need to be the scientists that they aren't going to be. The scientists aren't going to help us. So we need to work like they would. Come up with the data. I've got a DNA kit. I've got a couple of microscopes here. I've got all the DNA gathering stuff. I've got, a couple of 100 pounds of hydrocal, ultracal for casting. I've got all the stuff, I've got a good partner I work with now. But we need 4 or 5. We need them from all over the country. If you just find like-minded people, and it's not a competition, guys, we're all going to the same race. Just work together.
Yeah, we all should work together. Alex, you found that picture of Coke can. Alex, did you find that Coke can? That's not the same one. That's actually got red in it. That's not the same picture.
No, it doesn't have.
Go ahead and blow it up then. Prove it. Yeah, it does. Oh shit, it's just black and white. Keep going. Is it just black? Yeah, the other one we had was completely black and white with no green. But it is interesting. Isn't that interesting?
How does that break down and pixelate like that from red to nothing?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And back it out and you see red. There it is.
Yeah.
So our brains are not infallible.
Is that a Sasquatch holding that, or is that?
Yeah, I think that's Alex.
Oh, that's Alex's hand?
Yeah, that's Patty.
So, okay, I have an idea. Carter, are you willing to, we're going to close, but stay on and do a bonus show? Just a little bit. We don't do a long one, but
sure.
A little bonus for our members. Alex, you got time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well,
David Ellis.
I'm here, 9:15. So
David Ellis, we can get David back on for the bonus show. He can join in. Do you know who David Ellis is?
Was that the guy you were talking to before I got on?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I know him.
Yeah, but David works with the Olympic Project in Washington. So he's a great guy. But let's go ahead and end this.
All right.
Play our ending, and then we'll do a private bonus show for our members.
Yeah, so I'll send you a new link, Carter.
Okay, we'll get you out a new link.
New link.
David, if you want to join in, if you're still around, you can. Otherwise, we're going to go at it. So, anyhow, the wisdom today is the pathway that is paved with our own ignorance and our acceptance of our own ignorance will lead to the doorway of wisdom.
There you go.
That's in other words, keep an open mind and stay curious.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Consider does not make you believe.
So good night, everybody. With a lot of love. We really appreciate everybody in chat. and we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I'll pick you up in my 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. If the rain should stop falling, we'll head on home again. Everybody else can see where we belong. Oh, ain't no ordinary love we got going on. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I'll pray they never can pull us apart, and I'll wait for the time when we'll be together every day. But I know if ever we'll be led astray, that I'll find my way back home to you again. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I pray they never can pull us apart, and I